the most out of your walking. I'm Cora Naylor, and I'm a certified coactive coach and emotion code practitioner. We all know that movement is important for our bodies and our health. As women empty nesters, we need to ensure that we are doing all we can to keep our bodies in shape as we age. To give us some tips and guidelines around how to move, I've invited Marion Barnick to join us today. Marion's a registered kinesiologist and movement specialist. After receiving her degree from the University of Waterloo, she continued her education with certifications from Roy Matheson and Associates, Gray Cook, and the Functional Movement Systems, and the Center for Research on Pain and Disability, to name a few. She spent the last 25 plus years working with thousands of patients from a variety of backgrounds. Her specialty lies in her ability to evaluate movement and develop the corrective strategies to improve abilities and enhance function, whether it's for clients returning to work, improving their daily function, or improving elite sports performance. Welcome, Mary.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's an interesting time as an empty nester. We have so many things on the go, and it's a really important time of life to be looking after our bodies if we haven't been doing that already.
Very much so. And what I find with my clients or people who approach me and have questions or stumble upon my website is, do I need this? What should I be doing? Can I do this? And I think that's the number one approach. And the number one issue is that sometimes women don't believe that they can actually take on a new activity, that they can actually get moving and feel awesome about it. That it's not just another thing to put on the list that they have to do, because they don't want to be getting rid of some of the things on the list. This is actually for them, and it can be empowering in so many ways.
Yeah, so do you actually help with finding different things for people to do? Or I know we're going to talk about walking today, but that, because of what you just said, I was thinking, do you help with finding different ways to move so that maybe it's more interesting?
It can be. And generally what happens is women may come out of either a diagnosis. Let's say they have been diagnosed with osteoporosis. It could be different types of cancer. It could be that, they realize they need to lose some weight. So it's the activity per se that they know they have to integrate into their life. But it's not as easy as that, either from a motivation standpoint, an aches and pains standpoint, or I'm too afraid to get started because of whatever the issues may be. They don't want to overdo it, or they haven't taken on something. So it's those gentle little nudges to get them out and going and say, you know what, you got this. You can do it.
Yeah. So I guess walking is a good one to start with, because we've all been walking for our whole lives.
We have, but my question to you would be, have you been walking well?
Right.
Because that's what happens. It's not just that, yes, we've been walking our whole lives, but we've also gone through our whole lives with maybe some aches and pains, some changes. Our knees may have got sore. Maybe we've had an injury or an issue, put on some weight, lost some muscle. All of these will change how your body is going to react to something as simple as walking. So when you think about how easy it was when we were young, and we would get up in the morning, throw on a pair of sneakers, go out the door, and we would go until the street lights came on. We would have no issue. And now we make those noises when we bend down and put on our shoes. So we know things have changed. And that's the same thing with a gait pattern, or your pattern of walking, your biomechanics, how you're using your body. And it has changed, and it's changed if it's not easy anymore, if you're getting aches and pains, if when you're walking you feel pulling in the low back or the hips, or when you're done a couple hours later you can feel swelling in your knees, or those feet are so swollen they can't get in the shoes anymore, telltale signs that walking's not so easy.
Yeah. So what are some things that people could look out for or do to improve that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are some really easy things to look at, but I want to start first with just your mindset to know that, A, it's not easy. So don't beat yourself up to say, hey, I should be able to do this and I can't, and then you give up. It's not easy. There are ways to do. You look at the Olympics, look at the runners, and you look at how much training. They're really doing the same thing we're doing, just a little faster. And they spend how many hours a day training, and we've just decided that, oh, yeah, sure, let's go for a walk. Our body needs a little help. So don't beat yourself up, and know that it's something you can work on, something you can attain. Absolutely. Then it's looking at your posture. I really want to look at how you're standing before you even go out to walk. So if you stand in front of a mirror before you go out, and take a look at your balance, take a look at how level you are. Are your shoulders even? Are your hips even? Are your knees at the same level? Then it's going to give you a telltale sign about where your body's at, and you can say, hey, I always lean on that one hip, or this arm always comes flying in front of me when I'm walking. So when you start to get that awareness, then you're going to know what you need to work on. And we always start with range of motion, which is working on a stretching routine to see what's tight, what's okay, and what you may need to work on. And that's the surprising thing, is the ankles. Ankles are really surprising at how tight they get, and it really changes your gait pattern. Because if you don't have that great movement in the ankle, you're not going to toe off in the back, and you're not going to get that heel down in the front. So when you go out and watching people walk, if you are so fortunate that you can walk in your neighborhood, watch people's feet. Watch your own feet. Are they slumping down, just hitting? Or do you have a nice movement in your ankle? And that's where to start, is integrating just a little bit of mobility into your day-to-day with some stretching. And that's really going to make a difference in your walking, along with the alignment.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually do an exercise program. It's called Eccentrics TV, and they do a lot of exercises for feet and hands and ankles, because it's one of the things, if you go to a gym, no one tells you to exercise your feet or your ankles, and yet that's what's carrying your body around.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference, and also where that placement is, because I know as we get older, and depending on how safe we feel with maybe certain diagnoses, or whether we've gained weight, lost weight, feeling a little weak, our balance may change as well, and we may be a little fearful sometimes. I mean, I know West Coast, you're not getting a lot of snow and ice, but for those of us in Toronto, we've got ice all the time. So when you're walking on the ice, or you're walking uphill, or you're going hiking, let's say. So if you're going to Stanley Park and you're going through and it's not quite steady, you find that your gait changes. You may get a little wider with your stance. You may bend forward at the hips. All of that is going to change what muscles you're using. And if you do that long enough with that fearful walking and changing that stride, your body really gets used to it. And those muscles you want to use to really drive and move forward, including those glutes, which we love to work, aren't going to be able to participate. So those are where changes can come in too, is with balance.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm, like I say, when you're in that empty nester age bracket, we have so many other issues going on, hormonal issues and all this other stuff at the same time. So really important to get that movement going. What about if someone, for people that maybe haven't been doing anything, is there a sort of an amount of time or any kind of tips about how much you should be doing if it's something new, or you've been injured, or that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Is you want to look, first of all, do you have consent from your regulated healthcare practitioner? So if you've gone through surgery, if you do have hormonal changes, if you've added a hormone therapy into your body, we know how estrogen can affect our body as well, and muscle weakness. You want to make sure that you're okay to go out and do that type of exercise. So if you've gotten the clear from your regulated healthcare professional to say, start walking, I really advise you, first of all, the easiest thing to do is to use a fatigue scale. So when I work with my clients, especially when we're starting out, we've got a 1 to 10 scale. A 10 is you're calling 911 because you need to get to that hospital. And maybe not quite right now that you want to go, but, and then the 1 is, yeah, this is easy. I could do it all day. I want you under a 5. When you're under a 5, you know you're safe and you're able to recuperate. If you sort of push past that, if you're saying, okay, I'm in a minute and I'm a 2, and then I'm a 3, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at a 6 or a 7. Well, then you're going to put in some strategies such as slowing down your pace, stopping for a moment and just catching your breath. It could be sitting down on a bench just to relax for 2 minutes. So you want those strategies in place, but the number one thing is keeping it under that 5. That's where you're starting. when you can expand your time and you can say, I'm under a 5 for 3 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes. I mean, you're made in the shade. Then you look at, okay, I'm at 2 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm getting some aches and pains. Then you start integrating those other strategies we talked about with seeing how your joints are moving, your ankles, your knees, and your hips.
Well, yeah, that's good. I know it's just getting into the habit too, and starting small. I think people get frustrated because they want to start bigger than where they're at. And rather than kind of getting really used to that and getting into a habit, even if it's 10 minutes, like walking around the block to get started, if you're not fit already, that's an accomplishment. And most people don't realize how big that is. Just getting up off the couch and getting outside.
Such an important point, because part of my job, more often than not, especially when I'm working with high achievers that may have been working in, whether it's corporate or they were athletes or wherever they may be, they want it now. Patience is not the number one thing in their life. So I should do more. I should do more. More is always better until it's not. So that's where that line comes in, because you really do need to celebrate your small wins. So I have to pull back and slow down. And that's where, if you can keep a journal, because what you want to see is continuity and you want to see progression. Those are the two important things, because my goal always is for you to reach your best potential, and best potential is different for everyone. So I never want my clients, and I don't want anyone to ever compare to someone else, because God made us all different. You've got to do what's best for you, but you want to progress and you want the continuity. So if you can tell yourself that, you know what, 4 days a week, I'm going to commit to being active. Then on your journal, your calendar, you mark those 4 days and you mark what you do. Because the week after, you want to say, okay, I did 400 meters, I did a mile, I did 1 block, I did 3 driveways, I did, you want to see that progression. So that's what we're really looking for. And it helps empower you, and you can celebrate that.
Yeah. What do you believe is the most important first step for someone who's having problems with movement?
Well, first of all, I think that you really need to know whether or not you want to do something about it. You can have problems with movement and say, you know what, I am obliged to just hang out, sit on the couch, and watch my Netflix. But if that is not you, if you are saying, I want more out of life, I want to do more, I am not satisfied with sitting, that's where you have to take that next step. So that's where you see that motivation is first. Then you have to look at whether or not those aches, pains, issues, and problems with moving are stemming from something that's wrong with your joints, with your system. So I want you to have clearance first from an osteo standpoint, diabetes standpoint, cardiac standpoint. You're cleared for that, and then it's joint specific, ache specific, muscle or endurance. You always start with range of motion first. You start to see if your joints can move, because that is the precipice of everything we do. If you think about how your body is moving, if your knee can't move through full range of motion, or your hip is limited, what happens is we start to cheat, because we still want to do the actions, but we can't do them properly. So when we cheat and compensate, we are going to wear out other muscles. The muscles we should be using aren't going to be used, and something else is going to be injured. And that's where those aches and pains come in. So when we see that those joints have good movement, then we know that we can start working on strengthening and endurance. So I really want to see that those ankles and the knees and the hips, when we're talking about walking, are moving well first. So that would be the point to start. So that's my 2 cents plus.
Yeah. And I think that's really common, right? With a lot of people, is your left hip's hurting, but it's really your right shoulder, or something's out of alignment, and it's not really where the point is. It's the opposite.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true. And you say shoulder. One of the big points, and I do a lot of work with breast cancer survivors, when the shoulder is not moving well, and I've had 5 shoulder surgeries, I really know the shoulders. When that shoulder comes across the body, when that moves this way, it pulls. The only way you're compensating when you're walking is to swivel those hips. And so I will have clients will come in and say, my back's killing me. I'm like, oh, it's your shoulder. and they laugh at me. But I've seen how they move. Again, that's my secret sauce. I can watch how someone's moving. And yes, what hurts is a tool for us to see what you need to work on. It doesn't mean that's what's damaged. So, great point.
Yeah. So what should we be incorporating in our exercise routine to start feeling more powerful?
Movement is always power. As much movement as you can do, absolutely, but safely. So I want you to move well. I want you to figure out where you need to stretch, because time is of the essence. I don't want you to take the time to do a 90-minute stretch, a 60-minute yoga class every day. I mean, unless you love it. If that's your love, by all means, go ahead. But I want you to find out what you need to work on, because that will pinpoint your time and it will pinpoint your progression. So you're going to get better faster. So I really want you to see where the issues are with your movement strategies. As I said, standing in front of the mirror, seeing how you're aligned, seeing how your movement is with those joints. Those are the things to focus on. Then once a month, take a full look at how things are moving and say, yeah, I'm good with all of these. Or getting a little tight there. I might add that in for a couple weeks just to get the body back. So you have your, let's call it rehab, where you want to get to your best potential. And then you're on a maintenance program where you check in once a month with your body, listen to it talking to you, see what it needs to bring it back up to your best.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great tips. And I think you have some tips as we're kind of getting ready to wrap up here that you can share. If people are interested, they can see your website running along the bottom here, and you've got some tips they can get from you regarding walking.
Absolutely. I've put together a booklet that is taking you through the actual movement that you need for your ankles, for your knees, and your hips for walking. So you can at home do an analysis and evaluation of how you're moving step by step. I talk you through it, pictures of all of the range of motion, where you should be at, so you know exactly where your problems are, and then you know what you need to stretch. So your ankles may be just fine, and you're saying, oh, I need to work on my knee. Oh, my hip extension's not so great. You need to know so you can get better and focus on what you need, and you see the progression. So I'm happy to share that. Yeah, go to my website. It is there, and it's a free guide because I do want you exercising.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing with us today, Marion. Lots of awesome tips. And I know, you know, a lot of times when women are empty nesters, they think that's kind of the end of the road. But I know you and I are both very passionate about it's the beginning of a road. We still have a lot of amazing years left, and we want to be happy and healthy as long as we can.
Yes, yes, and yes, absolutely. There's no excuse not to do it. And as I said, we work to our potential and we feel awesome about it. There's so many benefits. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And if anybody is an empty nester and you'd like to know when we're getting more videos, or you just want to be in a support group with some other empty nesters, comment below with yes, and I'll add you to my empty nester group. So have a great day, everybody, and get out and have a nice walk. See you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cora.